Welcome to 8 Steps to Rolling Out a Social Selling Program. My name is Brynne TIllman, and I'm going to take you through what steps are necessary and the stages in order for you to roll out a successful program. Now, we're not going to talk a lot about LinkedIn specifically, but LinkedIn really is the foundation to this entire program. That's really the primary platform. So let's start with why social selling before we get into the tactics. First, the buyer's journey has changed. We all know this, right? Serious Decisions reported that 67% of the buying decision is completed without the salesperson in the conversation. That's a big deal. So why does social selling impact that? Well, if they're doing 67% of their research, that means they're Googling, they're reading content, they're watching videos, they're consuming insights and value. And if we are not participating in that, then when they finally do reach out to a company or to a salesperson, it's not us. So it's so important that we're embracing social selling and that we are the thought leaders and the subject matter experts that are influencing that 67% so that when they're ready, we get the call. Number 2, we are all digitally connected. This scares me probably because I bring this stat up, but on average, we look at our mobile device 85 times a day. And we don't have that much viewing of our family or our coworkers. It is screen time. So if that's the case, then if we're digitally connected, so are our buyers. We've got to make sure that we're showing up where they're hanging out. And last, it is the evolution of sales. When I started in the early 90s, it was actually pre-fax machine. Now we don't even use those anymore. I didn't have an email. And if someone wanted information on what I sold, there was no Google. They had to call me. And that was a great era in sales because they had to pick up the phone and say, send me information. And it gave us the opportunity to have those conversations. Back to that 67%, that's not happening anymore. And so if we are not in the forefront of how people are buying, then we are really going to get left behind. It's not even a net neutral, it's a net negative. And so we've got to keep up with the times. So it's paramount. 69% of B2B buyers use LinkedIn to research purchasing decisions. Big deal, right? If 69% of the folks are using LinkedIn to research, we've got to be showing up. On average, this is a CEB Challenger Sale, now Gartner stat. On average, there are 6.8 decision makers in every enterprise sales decision. So whether you're selling to small to medium-sized businesses all the way up into the large whales, it is important to make sure that we are touching all of those decision makers. So if you're a more small business, you're like, there's not even 6.8 people in a company. What I want you to do is really think about who are all the influencers. When I started in sales, there was typically a shopper and the person that held the wallet. And those were the two people I had to influence and chat with in order to make a sale. Today, they're much more collaborative. They're running ideas past the entire staff, if not, leads of departments, right? So we really have to figure out who's involved in this decision-making process. And maybe it's by title, but ultimately, how do we get in front of them and how do we influence them? They're not going to all turn into sales calls and meetings. So how are we getting in front of them and having an impact and really proving that we are the thought leaders and subject matter experts that they should be talking to while they're deciding on next steps to fix whatever challenge they have? And this is my absolute favorite. 74% of buyers choose the sales rep that was first to add value and insight. That's corporate visions. This is a huge stat if you're really ready to embrace social selling, or why you should be embracing social selling, right? What does this mean? It means 3/4 of the people choose the company, the solution based on who's adding the value and insights, not on price or rate or all the other things that we have in our head about why people aren't buying from us. They buy from us because we help, because we make an impact, because we are important in this journey. And so social selling is the primary way that we can get in front of these buyers with value and insights. So this is what most of us are doing. It's random acts of social. We are out there, maybe every day we're getting on LinkedIn, we view our little news feed, we accept some connections, maybe we even connect with some people. We engage on a little bit of content and maybe even check out our notifications and leave. But here's the thing, just like anything in business, if we are focusing on random acts of social, we are going to get random acts of business, right? There's not going to be any way to predict pipeline, to really help us determine what's working, what's not working, what activities are we doing that are converting to actual business, all that fun stuff. That comes out of purposeful prospecting, not from random acts of social. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is really how do you put that system in place so that that it is purposeful, right? And here's the thing, although I have to now, I'm going to switch out this phone in a little bit, but the goal of social selling ultimately is to have more sales conversations. And the way that we teach social selling is, the goal of social selling is to schedule more sales conversations by leveraging the power of LinkedIn. Now, I said I'm going to change out this phone really because my conversations are rarely on the phone anymore. Almost every one of my sales calls are Zoom calls. So, I have the phone, but really the bottom line is it's about conversations, whether it's in person, on the phone, screen sharing, whatever, method that you use to have conversations. That's really what it comes down to. It's more sales conversations, period. If you are not focused on more sales conversations, then social selling is not necessarily what you want to focus on or use. So it doesn't mean you can't use social media marketing, inbound, but really what we're going to focus on when we talk about social selling is what are we going to do to schedule calls. Okay, so here are the primary 8 stages in rolling out a social selling program. The first one is establishing your goals and KPIs. Anything that you do when it comes to putting together a sales training program or even a sales training process needs to start with what are our goals and KPIs. KPIs are the key performance indicators that our management and leadership is going to use to measure how effective our sales reps are in using whatever program we rolled out. So we'll go in depth a little bit more in a minute on that. We need to buyer map. Actually, I'm going to go quickly through this one and then we'll go deeper on each one. Buyer mapping is really how are we finding the right buyers and influencers and stakeholders. Select tool stack. This is a big one. Whether you already have tools in place, it's about really aligning those tools and maybe adding a few others that could really have impact. We need to have a content strategy. With that stat from Corporate Vision, 74% of buyers choose the sales rep that was most first to give insights and value. That's going to come from content. We need to customize a playbook, and we'll go in depth into this, but a playbook is really, has to include a few things, including daily cadence, step-by-step, message templates, right? So that when you onboard a sales rep to your social selling program, that they know exactly what to do and what to say at each turn. Value-centric profile, this is so important. Most profiles are set up like a resume, and we need our profile to be offering insights and value. Obviously, you've got to train your reps on your program and then measure and coach for improvement. So these are the 8 steps that really solidify a program that will be effective.